Okay. Well, you've got me if you want me for anything. You have any questions or any things you'd like to ask about?
Maybe just have like a regular conversation, man to man.
Okay.
I guess I could bring up my personal views on things or where I'm at in my life. And
How old are you, Ryan?
35, I'll be 36 August 1st.
And you're married? Married, single, divorced?
Single, never single, no children.
All right. Well, what's been on you? So grief is on your mind, huh?
Grief, not just in the sense, I mean, not just with the loss of my father. I have this like curse where I can't separate myself from the world. I'm always, I guess I could say I'm concerned with like the health of our nation.
Why is that a curse?
Because maybe not so much, but maybe it weighs on me. Like I feel.
Fair
I
enough.
feel like
Fair
I
enough.
feel
But
like
if
I have.
but it's not a curse unless you call it a curse.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
power of
So
words is really, really
I mis.
powerful. You could just as easily look at it as a ladder, as a curse. I mean, it's a ladder.
A lot of the times when I bring these things up, people tell me just focus on me, focus on my own life, my own health, and
Well, what is you? And what is your own health?
I think it's me in my community. So like I myself by myself, I can't really experience joy unless I feel like others can share it with me.
And nor can you experience joy unless others permit it, right?
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking about is where you draw the line between you and your community. Where is
Yeah.
that line drawn?
Yeah. I think I need to draw that line.
Do you? Or
Do I
should
honestly?
you dissolve it? You have a choice, you know.
I want to dissolve it because there's conversations I want to have about like is there a place for me to kind of help the community, speak on things, maybe encourage people to get together to make changes in this community. And I'm looking forward to actually this Sunday. I'm going to be going to a church and I'm going to meet with the bishop and kind of get conversations going again about how I view things.
Which is this a Catholic church or
It's a
you said bishop?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so Mormon.
Yeah, that's Mormon. Yeah, I like Mormons. Mormons are cool. All right, well, there it's pretty laid out, but what's the goal of the Mormon path?
My path or their path?
Well, you said you were a Mormon. I presume you share a path, no?
I did not get baptized Mormon. I'm baptized like evangelical Christian. They do want to baptize me, but I didn't know if I agree with the book, like with. See, I'm more about the gospel, and they have the Book of Mormon, and then they also don't they baptize like dead people or something? I don't know if I agree with that.
Dead people.
Like
I don't think you'd baptize someone if they're dead.
yeah, I know. I thought I heard something. I didn't do enough
There's like
research.
extreme unction when people are dying. You know,
I
there's.
guess my larger thoughts are if they're okay, so Christian like a Christian man, just stereotypical Christian man has values. And if enough Christian men with values were together, then how come they couldn't, or why don't they make change in the legislation, or why don't they get involved in government?
Well, what do Mormons say about this world? What this world is for? Or
Yeah, it's
Christians?
still
Yeah, let's go to Christians. I don't know if you prefer me to consider you a Mormon or a Christian or
Christian.
okay, so a Christian. Then what do Christians say the purpose of this world is?
To bring people to the understanding of Christ, which
Why would they
is
want to do that?
just putting value on an appreciation of creation. With that,
Well, I think these things have to be clarified before you go out and start teaching people, no?
yes, no, I agree.
So you need to be crystal clear about what the Christian road is, where it leads, how far along on it you are, and then have the power to discern where other folks are, and that's before you start trying to help them along, right? Because you have to be crystal clear.
Yes.
So, but the nice thing about the teachings of Jesus, of course, is that they are they're right there for anyone to see. So, what was Jesus' relationship with his community?
He was helping. He was helping those who needed it most, like the poor and
Was he?
destitute.
Was he really?
Well, he was all. I mean,
I think he said something along the lines of, "The poor you will always have with you. Leave them behind and follow me." Yeah, I don't think Jesus was a big anti-poverty guy.
no, I didn't mean anti-poverty. I just mean that I do need to study more. I do need to be crystal clear with how I want to voice myself here.
Well, you have to be crystal clear, first of all, for yourself, no?
Yes. I think in my past it was tough to follow Jesus because it was only something I could read about, and it wasn't a tangible person that I could kind of.
Well, there's an endeavor that's really worthwhile, which is to study the life and words of Jesus so deeply that you can feel him as a man, right? As a human being in a world walking around and getting in all kinds of trouble with the authorities and stuff, but also doing the things he did. But I think one of the things that happens, and it's tragic, is that American churches, as sanitary as they are, oftentimes leave out the whole gist of the entire matter, which is what is this man saying about human life? What did he live for? What did he die for?
So we could all feel forgiven.
Do you have a that's one way of putting it, because that's one way of putting it, but there was much more than that. And remember, there were secular forces at work for 2,000 years, right? They've been doing their thing. And so that's why a red line Bible, I think, is a really, really useful thing to study. You know what a red line Bible is?
Yes, I have mine right here.
Okay. So I think that could be really, really cool, is to get to know the
Red letters.
well, and who Jesus is, who he was, and what that means, because you could end up spending all of your effort in the wrong kingdom. You know?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and this happens all the time. I mean, people make this mistake all the time. They get caught up in that world of the mind and the ego and the personality, especially, and they're trying to relieve their own suffering. And so they go off and some of it's like to be expected, right? But some of it's to be expected and to be forestalled, because these are, on the other, they're very, very both simple teachings, but very, very profound teachings both. And I think if you want a guide, and you're a Christian, of the relationship of a man to his community, well, Jesus had many communities, right? The Romans, the world, the locals, his disciples, the women, his mother and his aunts and stuff, or whatever. And so there's a lot of guidance in there, but you may not like what you find. Being a Christian is very, very tough. Very, very tough. And a lot of Christians don't seem to want to do the work on themselves that they'd like other people to do on themselves. And so that's all. It's just a little thought,
Yeah, no, I just opened up to just a random page. Was the baptism of John from heaven or from men?
The baptism of John?
No, I was just in Luke.
What's the difference between heaven and man? I mean, where is heaven? Where is the kingdom of heaven?
Within.
Right. So now ask your question again. Was the baptism of John from within or without? Is that what you're saying? Asking?
Well, I think some of these churches.
Well, let's not talk about churches. Let's talk about truth. Because the churches can get you a long, long way from truth, right? They invent things as they go. Like, I mean, people aren't eating enough fish, so you make fish mandatory on Friday. People are eating pork, and not Christians, but other people are eating pork, and they get Christus bias, so you outlaw pork. Things like that. But that's going to be superficial stuff. So then let's go to, let's not deal with the superficialities, because those change from year to year and generation to generation. Let's stick with the interior stuff. So where does Christianity draw the line between the interior and the outside world?
Well, there's kind of like the separation of church and state in a way.
But that's man. We're talking now about the Bible and Jesus, right? Although Jesus did do that. He said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, right? So there's something there. But what else? Where else is a line between the interior and the exterior in Christianity? Do you know Teilhard de Chardin?
I do not.
You might be interested in him. He's a Christian monk. Chardin, Chardin. Well, put in Chardin and Christianity and see what comes up. Chardin.
I'm just getting myself set up here. I guess a lot of my thoughts, or my wonder, is around, like, just say my lifetime, or just say the past 100 years. And
Okay.
like, why haven't Christians kind of banded together?
Are they Christians, really? Are they Christians? Or do they just call themselves Christians?
They call themselves Christians.
All right, well then what do you expect? It's a political or social, signal or flag or, emblem or T-shirt. I'm a Christian. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Hindu. I'm whatever. But that doesn't mean anything about. So where are the Christians? First of all,
Hiding or feeling safe feeling safe in their churches.
not all of them. Some are out there really working, but they're not advertising, right?
Right. Yes, and there are good Christians, and then there are vanilla Christians, I think they call them.
Well, let me tell you one thing that I can tell you from a lifetime of making mistakes that I've learned. See if I can get the quote right. It says, no man will revile his brother for a sin he does not commit himself before he dies. No man will revile his brother for a sin he does not commit himself before he dies. I love that, because the older I get, the more I see that. And it's very, very subtle. Very, very subtle and very, very powerful. So remember it. No man will revile his brother for a sin he does not himself commit before he dies. And this, what that reminds me of is Jesus, judge not lest ye be judged, right? And so the whole role of judgment in this world, of us judging one another, I've spent a lot of time in the legal system too, in the forensic systems. And in the criminal justice system, man, it's a real mess when man tries to play arbiter of truth, because nothing's black and white, right? So you have let me give you an example, just off the top of my head. You have a 50-year-old man who 45 years ago, when he was a teenager, and the man is mentally disabled, right? Severely mentally disabled. 45 years ago, when he was 35 years ago, when he was 15, he started messing around with a kid, and nothing came of it. And then 30, 40 years later, the kid's grown up and married, and he's in couples therapy, and he's been cheating on his wife. He got caught, so he blamed it on the sexual abuse that he suffered at the hands of this mentally disabled man, 35, 40 years ago. And so this guy doesn't even remember what he did, much less understand the right from wrong. But man, he went to prison for child sexual abuse, even though I don't think it was justice, and he wasn't a danger to anybody else anymore, or whatever. So my point is that judging others is very difficult at best, and the problem with it is that you set up the own karma in your own head, where you judge yourself, right? So people who are very judgmental end up in very judgmental worlds, right? And so that teaching of Jesus, judge not lest ye be judged. Is that Jesus? That's Jesus, isn't it?
I believe so, but it rings true anyway.
Well, but why would be the question. Let's find out. Let's make sure. Maybe we can find the citation. Can you look it up real quick? I don't have a machine to do that with.
Yeah, I'll gut my computer up. Well, I mean, this has a lot to do with me, actually, because I don't know why, but I grew up.
Well, that's why we're talking. That's why we're talking, right?
Yeah, like through adolescence, I was judgmental of the world around me because I was all like.
Well, that's what adolescents do, right? I mean, that is adolescence.
Well, I was like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and the world just started beating me down.
But see, what I'm trying to point out is that something may be developmentally normal and salutary developmentally, like judgmentalism in adolescence. But as they grow older, that should soften. They should become more tolerant, more open. They know more. They understand more. They understand how people can arrive at a different, say, spiritual commitment or religious commitment because of where they grew up, right? And so I guess judgmentalism is this hallmark of youth, and openness, which is not the same thing as tolerating anything, right? Is the hallmark of age, right? So why would that be, and why would we have two traditions, major traditions, saying, do not judge whatever you do? Pretty much. Here's another quote, because I'm an old man, right? I'm headed for the grave, and like some of these things were told to me directly, and so I'm trying to get them out. But one of them, I remember, I got in a fight with a Jesuit priest once, and he said to me, comparisons are odious. And man, I hated when he said that. But he was absolutely right. Comparison is odious. I guess he said it in such a way that it was memorable too, so thank you, Jesuit priest. At any rate, so the whole notion that our job as Christians, if we decide to call ourselves Christians, if we can dare call ourselves Christians, is different than what was laid out by the political and secular powers that's been in charge of Christianity for the last 2,000 years, right?
Right.
And although the truth stays the same, sometimes it gets glossed over because other people have different purposes. They want the church to go big. They want the church to grow rich. They want the church to do this or that. And I think we can just look at our dear Catholic Church, for whom I have all kinds of esteem, but you can see that what I'm saying is true, right? And so we have to separate the teachings of Jesus, from the Council of Nicene, right? From the bishops and popes and all these guys that are they're trying to run an organization, which they have, right? I mean, the Catholic Church, I think, is the oldest continuously functioning organization on the planet. Am I wrong? I've never heard anybody else say that, so I'm very suspicious. But as far as I can tell, it is.
Well, let's just say it's one of them, if we're not.
Well, no. What are the others? What are the others?
Well, I'll ask Google.
All right, ask Google. That'd be fun.
Is the Catholic Church the oldest institution in the world? It's the oldest institution. The University of Al Qarawiyya.
The University of Al, I've never even heard of it. It sounds Muslim, but
Catholics make up the biggest denomination in the biggest religious group on the planet.
For now, maybe. And maybe that'll continue because, for example, their positions on birth control are very, very good if what you want is more population.
What I want is, I think
Well, what was that place, the Owl place? What was that?
Oh,
University of Owl. How do you spell it?
Quareouyine. I can send you a direct message if you'd like.
All right, I'll look at it later.
I don't know if
Guaruli?
it's, I don't know
Q,
if it's relevant.
Q-U? Guaruli. All right, I'll look into it.
I'm going to leave that open and send it to you after our conversation. So I just think about, like, what is human purpose? And this is like a really,
Well, are you serious? Do you want the answer to that question?
well, I think the answer is to kind of take care of creation and
Well, no.
take care of each
We
other.
don't take care of creation.
No, I know we don't.
Right, that's taken care of for us. So then if that's not the case, then what is the human purpose? I mean, we couldn't take care of creation. We can't even take care of our own political parties, right? We can't take care of each other. We can't take care of animals. We're not going to be taking care of creation, right? We don't have the intelligence.
We're supposed to enjoy existence.
Oh, really? Who said that?
What, you think we were put here just to suffer? And
No, I'm just asking. Okay, these are important questions, right?
Yes.
And you're 35 years old and you're trying to understand what your purpose is here on life. So let's not make any mistakes because you could waste a lifetime, no?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so let's not make. So I'm asking not because I'm trying to be cute, but because I'm trying to learn also. So the question is, who said that life is for enjoyment?
No one. I mean, that
Yeah,
was my
but
assumption. When
yeah. So how did you come to that assumption? I wonder.
Well, my father made things really fun for me when I was a kid, so there was always.
Well, it's more like the human mind has an. It's not just you, Ryan. It's everyone. The human mind has an extraordinary capacity to see things that it wants to see and not see things it doesn't want to see, right?
Yeah, I fear that.
Well, let's look at the word enjoy. What is, okay, we know what joy is, right?
Yes,
What does enjoy mean? I'm curious. Do you have a dictionary of etymology?
I do.
Enjoy.
Take delight or pleasure in an
Okay.
activity or occasion.
Okay. All right. So let's say it is, okay. So life is to enjoy. Let's go with that, even though it's not clear whose summary that was. But let's say life it is to enjoy. There's two ways I can go here. Let me think about which way.
Well, there's one way where it's, have a family, enjoy, for a man to enjoy, provide for a woman, and then have offspring and enjoy that. But,
Yeah, that's going to that gets more complicated, Ryan. You'll see as you get older.
yeah.
Okay, so let's go this way then. Let's take 100. Let's take 1,000 people, normal people, and we put them on an island, and we provide them with 2,000 staff. Okay, and these 2,000 staff provide them with food, with drink, with entertainment, with whatever they want. Everybody's got 2 staff people there and unlimited budget, and these 1,000 people are there just to enjoy the island, right? And so they're dropped off there, and then what happens after, say, about 1 year to these 1,000 people, even though everything's being provided for them?
They take it for granted and want more or something.
And then they start to form a divide, right? They split off into the Catholics and the Protestants, the Muslims and the Hindus, the Taoists and the Buddhists, the conservatives and the liberals. People have this. Beyond a certain size of group, humans can't really form coherent groups, except on the most superficial points, right? So this is what would happen. After about a year, or even less, they'll start to form factions. And then before you know it, you're going to have 2 sides of the island. There's going to be the blues and the greens, or the yellows and the oranges. But basically, they're going to split up. And they're going to have conflict with each other. I mean, look at the history of the world.
Yeah, okay.
Now, why would they do that? Why would they take this paradise and spoil it? Out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. And so that's the state that we're in now, humanity. We can't manage ourselves. Well, but the thing is, what are we going to clarify? I mean, if half the people think that the purpose of life is to enjoy, and the other half is to remit sin, or to get your sins worked out, and another one to believe that you're here to burn off karma, right? Now we have three different opinions, and that's why opinions are not very valuable to. If you're looking for the truth, you're going to find that the truth is not in opinions. Opinions are just like beliefs. But anyway, so that's what's going to happen. So let's say that we did have the world that we wanted, and everybody was Christian, and everybody got together, and we started farming, and we started, producing what we need, or everything was provided for us the way it has been, frankly, right? And then what do we do with that? We destroy it. Or it's destroyed for us. It's not the way of the world, right? It's not the way of nature.
The monopolizing of things seems to always happen.
Okay, so let's say that's one aspect.
Yeah, people want to make things easier for themselves, and then
right,
create devices to do so, and then.
But is it just us, or would that be true of animals as well? Would animals do things the easy way if they could, or the lazy way if they could?
If they could,
they would, right?
I guess so, because.
So then it's not it's not a feature of the human mentality. Maybe it's a feature of metabolic energy expenditure. You don't want to spend any more energy on moving a rock from here to there, because you could use that energy later when you're trying to hunt for food or something. Perhaps that's something.
The birds definitely like my bird feeder instead of hunting for the food themselves.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's an example. So then, but what happens if you take the food away from the birds? Let's say you get called away for a project, and you're gone for 2 years. What's going to happen to those birds and the bird food?
Well, maybe not all of them, but they would probably revert to their natural instincts to hunt again.
If they had them still, right? Because if you, I've got birds all over the place here too. Because if you raise young birds with free food, they appear to become pretty dependent on it pretty quickly, and they lose their fear of man entirely. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm trying to point out the principle that if we want to get to the truth here, we're going to have to look at our animal makeup too. Because remember, our midbrain comes from the monkeys, right? And our brainstem back here, at the neck and above the neck, that's well, it's called reptilian, but basically that monitors all our heart rate, our digestion, our sleep weight, sexuality, things like that. But this is the thing: we're wired to survive as individuals and small families or tribes. I'm not sure how well we're wired to act innately in large groups. And so that's where the psychological manipulation and frankly coercion comes in. And so I suppose we could educate each other about the effects of massive waves of propaganda. That could be useful because that's coming next. But we'd have to be really, really careful, because one man's propaganda is another man's religious truth, right?
Yeah, those who push the propaganda might actually believe that they're doing a service for humanity.
Well, most of them do, believe it or not. Believe it or not. Of course we'd have to build bioweapons labs all over the world. And of course we have to have, 50,000 nukes all over the planet. And of course we have to spy on everybody. We're trying to keep the world safe, right? I mean, they honestly believe that that's the best way to go. And so then you get differences of opinion, and then you get conflict. And so the point is that and I don't want to get too esoteric, but it's not esoteric. As I've gotten older, I've noticed that the world can be divided up into two parts. The part that's made by man and the part that's not made by man. If you look at the part that's made by man, that would be buildings, money, society, culture, science, history, religion. It always falls apart. It always falls apart. Nothing from the mind of man can last, right? No,
Right.
And so that seems to me like a big clue, right? So what is it about this universe that no matter what we do, well, first of all, we just confuse ourselves hideously, right? Because we can't find a there in physics. And space-time appear to be secondary characteristics, not the foundational reality. And we know that we don't have any direct access to reality except for the one that we create with our brains, right? And so the question is, what gives here, right? And how can we move forward intelligently? And I think that you have the most important thing, which is you have the initiative, you have the desire to do that, and you have it's wired in you, right? Humans do search for truth. They are curious creatures, and they want to know, partly, but also they have an incredible power to delude themselves because it's been necessary evolutionarily. So then, going back to this enjoy life, the problem with just enjoying life, have you ever heard of Taoism?
Taoism, yes.
Okay, so in Taoism, they understood very early the absence of absolute existence on this universe, and so they pointed out that you can't have tall without short, you can't have long without no, you can't have tall without short, you can't have long without short also, I guess. You can't have hot without cold, you can't have peace without lack of peace. And they just point out the fact that in this relative world, everything is relative. And so the question would, not relative in the sense that sounded like, but so if there's going to be enjoyment, what else must there be?
Suffering.
Lack of enjoyment, at least, right? So then the equation of life is for us to enjoy becomes, well, life is here for us to enjoy the most that we can, right? But to do that, we need to minimize suffering. So how can we minimize suffering? By the way, I'm not saying you can't live an incredibly joyful life, right? I'm not sure about enjoy, but joyful life. Well, enjoy is fine.
But how do we minimize suffering with still fostering growth?
You have to get rid of ignorance. Suffering is based on ignorance. Suffering is based on ignorance of our actual situation. So one of the things that could help, though, do you have an Aramaic translation of the Bible?
I do not. I'm sure I could pull one up online.
Yeah, I want you to do that. Look up, what were the last words of Jesus in Aramaic on the cross?
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means you have kept me, or you have preserved me.
Correct. Now, that's in contrast to, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Those are two very different translations. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Now, which one are we to believe? Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Or, for this I was delivered, or for this I was born?
The latter.
Well, don't be so quick. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I do know there's a question. Pardon me? It makes a lot of sense to me.
No, I appreciate my existence so much personally that I have to go with the latter.
Exactly. So here's a man on a cross being crucified by the secular powers that be, or the religious powers, frankly. And what is he saying? For this I was born. For this you delivered me. Which is very different than, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? So something's going on here. I mean, I lived until age 60 not knowing that was true in Aramaic.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation because it gives me something to move forward with.
Yeah, good.